The door slammed open like a gunshot. Every pool cue froze mid-air. Every beer mug hung halfway to a beard, and the jukebox coughed Johnny Cash into silence. The Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club was not the kind of place you expected children to walk into at midnight. Not in this town. Not in their pajamas. But that is exactly what happened. 8-year-old Ethan stood there in the doorway, his Spider-Man pajama pants torn at the knee, his bare feet black with gravel dust. Behind him, pressing against his leg, was a huge German shepherd fur bristling, eyes burning like coals. The boy's chest was heavy with the kind of fear that only comes when you have run through the dark and the world is chasing you. For a heartbeat. Nobody moved. 30 men in leather and tattoos stared at a kid who looked like he had just stepped out of a nightmare. Then he spoke. My mom. His voice cracked. My mom's locked in the basement. The bad man said he would kill my baby brother if I told anybody. The room went dead still. Ethan's dog, Shadow, pressed forward, a low growl rumbling from deep in his chest. Every biker in the room felt it in their bones. The boy swallowed, his small fingers clutching the worn leather cut of the man. He had walked straight toward the tallest, scariest figure in the bar, Snake, president of the Iron Wolves. 6'4" with a scar running from temple to jaw and arms like tree trunks, looked down in shock as this tiny stranger tugged at his vest. But Mommy said bikers protect people. Ethan whispered. She said if the bad man ever hurt her, I should find the wolves. Snake bent down, his massive frame folding in half until he was eye level with the boy. His voice, usually a gravel rumble that made grown men sit straighter, softened. What is your name, kid? Ethan? He hesitated. Then the words tumbled out, the ones that made every man in the room sit bolt upright. The bad man. He is a cop. A hiss moved through the room like a live wire. It explained everything, the bruises no one questioned, the whispers about Ethan's mom, the reason no neighbor had ever stepped in. A police officer could bury the truth 6 feet deep and dare anyone to dig. Snake's jaw tightened, his eyes flashing to the boy's trembling dog. Shadow did not flinch. He leaned into Snake's stare like he was measuring him, judging him, demanding something, and in that second, Snake understood. The boy did not come alone. He came with a guardian. Snake stood, scooping Ethan into his arms like he weighed nothing. The giant, scar-faced biker carried the boy as gently as a man might carry glass. He turned to his brothers, his voice cutting through the smoke and silence. Brothers? He barked. We ride. Chairs scraped back. Boots hit the floor. The Iron Wolves did not need explanations, they needed orders. Snake gave them. Hawk, you are on comms. Get a location. Patch. Find out the kid's address gently. Razor. Diesel. Light up the north side of town in 10 minutes. Loud but clean. The rest of you, gear up. We're not just finding his mom, we are bringing this family home. The place erupted into motion. Phones buzzed. Engines roared to life outside. Men who had been brawling 20 minutes earlier now moved with military precision. Through it all, Ethan clung to Snake's vest, his small hands gripping the leather patch that read President. Shadow padded at his side, never breaking stride, his ears flicking at every sound. Patch, a biker with forearms like tree trunks and a smile that could melt stone, knelt down beside Ethan as Snake set him gently on a bar stool. He slid a glass of chocolate milk in front of him, God knows where he found it in that place, and pulled up a map on his phone. "Show me, kid," Patch said softly. Ethan pointed with a shaking finger. The house was neat. Ordinary. White picket fence. The kind of place where the world would never guess a monster lived. A monster with a badge. Snake strapped on his cut, his eyes hard as steel. Shadow stood at his side, hackles raised, like he already knew where they were headed. The wolves filed out into the night, a pack of leather and iron, engines rumbling like distant thunder. But inside the bar, as Ethan sipped his milk with both hands and Shadow pressed against his legs like a living wall, a truth settled heavy in the air. This was not just about rescuing a woman in a basement. It was about something bigger, darker, and far more dangerous. Because when the villain wears a uniform, the whole system bends to protect him, and all that stands between a single mom, her children, and a man with unchecked power is a scar-faced biker and a dog who refuses to let go. The wolves ride into the night. Ethan watches them disappear, clutching Shadow's ear like a lifeline. For the first time, he believes what his mom always whispered. Heroes do not always wear badges. Sometimes they wear scars. Sometimes they have paws. Part 2, the ride. Engines thundered into the night, the kind of sound that rattled windows and set off car alarms 3 blocks away. Snake Road Point, the headlight of his Harley cutting a tunnel through the darkness. Behind him, a dozen men followed in formation, their leather cuts snapping in the wind like war flags. Back at the clubhouse, Patch stayed with Ethan. The boy clutched a worn blanket someone had draped over his shoulders. Shadow pressed against his side, the dog's ears flicking, his muscles taut. He refused to sit, refused to rest. Every nerve in his body hummed with the urgency of his small master's heartbeat. Snaker's voice cracked through the comms in his helmet. "Hawk, talk to me." Static hissed. Then Hawk's voice came low and steady. Confirmed address. Officer Frank Miller. Wife died years back. 2 kids, 1 deceased. 1 missing. House sits on the edge of Maple Grove. Neighbors describe him as pillar of the community. Hawk spat the words like they tasted rotten. They also say he yells a lot, loud enough they hear it through the walls. Snaker's jaw clenched. He did not need neighbors' gossip. He had Ethan's voice in his ear, those trembling words about a basement, a baby brother, and a monster with a badge. Diversion status. Snake barked. Razor and Diesel rolling into downtown now. Hawk said. In the background came the scream of revving engines, followed by the wail of distant sirens. "Cops are biting. You have got a 10-minute window." Snake leaned forward on the throttle, eyes narrowing against the wind. "That is all I need." Back at the clubhouse, Ethan and Shadow. Ethan stared at the map on Patch's phone, tracing the lines with his finger. "There," he whispered. "That is the window I climbed out of. In the back. It sticks. But if you push hard enough, Patch nodded, taking notes like a soldier in a briefing. But it was Shadow who locked onto Ethan's voice. Ears pricking, nostrils flaring as if he could already smell the house miles away. In Shadow's mind, the world was scent. Ethan's pajamas reeked of fear, of sweat, of dust from the crawl space he would escaped. But beneath it was something sharper, coppery. Metallic, the faint ghost of blood. And layered under all of it, the dog caught the trace of another smell. Milk. Baby scent. Faint. Distant. But real. The boy had not lied. Shadow whined softly, pressing his nose against Ethan's palm. I know. Ethan whispered, tears catching in his throat. We got to get her out. The wolves arrive. Snake killed his engine a block away from Miller's house. The night fell heavy, the silence broken only by the ticking of hot pipes cooling. The wolves dismounted as one, their boots crunching gravel in unison. Engines off from here. Snake ordered. Ghost ride. They pushed their Harleys the last 100 yards. Shadows moving through the dark. The house loomed ahead 2 stories. White siding. A porch swing creaking in the breeze. It looked harmless, picturesque, but Snake knew better. The wolves split 2 covering the front, 2 circling wide. Snake and Hawk approached the rear, eyes scanning for the stuck window Ethan had described. There it was, half hidden by overgrown bushes. Paint peeling on the sill, Snake motioned to Hawk. Quiet entry. Let us move. The window groaned, but gave way under Snake's weight. He slipped inside, boots landing silent on linoleum. The air smelled of bleach and something sour. Too clean. Too perfect. Then came the sound, a cry, thin, high-pitched. A baby. Snake's heart hammered. He gestured to Hawk, and they crept toward the stairs. Each step groaned beneath their weight. At the landing, Hawk peeled off to search the nursery. Snake turned toward the basement door. Shadow, S-Pov. Back at the clubhouse, Shadow could not stay still. He paced the length of the room, circling Ethan. Hackles raised. Every nerve told him his pack was split, and the small alpha the boy was exposed. He pressed his nose to the floor, inhaling the fading traces of Snake and the others who had left minutes earlier. Leather. Determination. They were hunting. Shadow wanted to be there, needed to be there, but his job was here, for now guarding the boy who smelled of fear and innocence all at once. His ears flicked. Outside, a car rolled by too slow, headlights cutting across the clubhouse window. Shadow's lips peeled back in a silent snarl. Danger was never far. Snake in the basement. The door creaked as Snake eased it open. The smell hit him like a fist-damp concrete. Mildew. And something darker. Something human. He descended the steps. Flashlight cutting a narrow beam through the black. And there she was. Maya, crumbled on the floor like discarded laundry. Wrists bruised. Lips split. Hair matted with blood. But she was breathing. Faint. Shallow. But alive. Snake's got twisted. He wanted to put his fist through the wall, through Miller's skull, through every badge that had let this happen. But rage could wait. Right now, there was only the mission. He crouched, sliding his arms beneath her broken frame. She weighed nothing, less than nothing. He lifted her gently, like he had her son. From upstairs came Hawk's whisper, "Got the baby? He is weak, but breathing." Snake exhaled. Relief, sharp and fleeting. They were not out yet. He started back up the stairs, Maya limp against his chest. And that is when his comm crackled. "Snake," it was Razor, his voice tight with urgency. "We have got a problem. The diversion did not hold. Miller's on his way back. 5 minutes. Snake froze at the top step. 5 minutes. He tightened his grip on Maya and pushed through the door into the kitchen. Hawk appeared from the hall, cradling a small bundle in his massive arms, a baby boy, wrapped in a faded blue blanket. Snake met his eyes. No words were needed. "Out the back," Snake ordered. They slipped through the night like ghosts, carrying the broken pieces of a family. Back at the clubhouse, Ethan jerked awake on the bar stool, milk spilling across the counter. Shadow had stiffened, a growl rumbling in his throat. The dog was on his feet, nose pointed toward the door, every muscle coiled. "What is it?" Patch asked, rising. Before he could answer, the faint roar of an engine split the night. Not a Harley, a police cruiser. Blue lights flickered against the clubhouse windows. Shadow bared his teeth. The monster was coming. Snake and the wolves are racing through back streets with Maya and the baby. Miller closing in. At the same time, back at the clubhouse, Ethan and Shadow are about to come face to face with the very man they ran from. Part 3 Shadows in the basement. The wolves had escaped the Miller house by seconds. Snake's Harley roared down an alley, Maya limp in his arms like a porcelain doll wrapped in leather. Hawk followed close, the infant pressed to his chest, every bump in the road drawing a whimper from the baby. 2 more riders flanked them, engines throttled low to keep shadows rather than sound. 3 minutes. Hawk crackled through the comms. "Patch better have that kid ready." Snake did not answer. His eyes were locked on the road, his jaw hard as steel. He was not thinking about the risk. He was not thinking about the cops who would swarm when Miller screamed his lies. He was thinking about a single mom who had been beaten into silence, and a boy who had walked into his bar at midnight with only a dog for backup. At the clubhouse, the cruiser's lights washed the walls in pulsing blue. Ethan clutched Shadow's collar, knuckles white, his small body trembling. Shadow stood rigid between the boy and the door, teeth bared, ears flat, a growl that vibrated through the floorboards, rumbling from deep in his chest. Patch peeked through the blinds. His curse was a whisper. "It is Frank Miller." The officer stepped out of his car like he owned the night. Neatly pressed uniform, holster gleaming, face calm as a churchman, only his eyes betrayed him cold. Searching, burning with rage. He knocked once on the door. Not frantic, not demanding, just polite. "A cop at your door at midnight. Nothing to fear, folks." Patch turned to Ethan. "Kid, Get back. Hide. Ethan shook his head violently. He will find me. He always finds me. Shadow pressed closer to the boy, as if to say, he won't find you this time. The knock came again, harder. Open up. Police. Miller's voice was smooth, practiced, the kind that made neighbors smile and trust. But underneath, Shadow caught it the faint tremor of a predator's hunger. Shadow, Espov. The air stank of him, sweat sore with adrenaline, gun oil sharp and metallic, and under it, the ghost scent Ethan carried the same blood smell, the same fear. Shadow remembered the night he would been cast out of the K-9 unit. Too aggressive, they would called him. Unpredictable. But what they did not understand was this. Shadow could smell lies. He could taste cruelty in the air. And Frank Miller reeked of it. Shadow's lips curled, a snarl tearing from his throat. His boy trembled behind him. That was all Shadow needed. The cop was not welcome. Snake returns. The wolves pulled into the clubhouse lot. Engines cut, tires crunching gravel. Snake jumped off his bike with Maya in his arms. She stirred faintly. Lips parted. A moan caught in her throat. Hawk followed with the baby, swaddled and weak but alive. Snake did not need Hawk to tell him what the flashing blue lights meant. He saw them the moment his boots hit the ground. Miller. Snake growled. He shoved through the door, Maya still in his arms, and froze. Inside, Miller stood in the middle of the room, his badge catching the light, his hand resting on the butt of his gun. Patch was against the wall. Hands raised. Ethan clung to Shadow, who was crouched low, ready to spring. The room was a powder keg. One spark would blow. Well, well. Miller's smile was thin, venomous. Look at this circus. Kidnapping. Obstruction. Harboring fugitives. You boys have really outdone yourselves. Snake set Maya gently on a sofa, eyes never leaving Miller. She is not a fugitive. She is your victim. Miller's hand tightened on his gun. Careful, Snake. You want to go back inside? I will bury you so deep no one remembers your name. Shadow's scroll deepened. Ethan clutched his fur. The fracture. And then it happened. One of the wolves, Big Ron, a biker who had always ridden 2 steps behind Snake, moved. Too quick. Too nervous. He was not looking at Miller. He was looking at the floor. Snake's eyes narrowed. The truth hit him like a hammer. Ron had let Miller in. Betrayal cut deeper than any blade. Snake felt it in his chest. A hollowing rage that wanted to burn the whole world down. But he kept his voice level. The man shifted, shame flickering across his face. I did not, he said. Snake's fist connected with Ron's jaw before he could finish. The big man dropped like a felled tree. Miller's smirk widened. What did I tell you? Wolves turn on their own. He drew his gun. Shadow sleep. Everything slowed. The metallic click of the weapon clearing its holster. Ethan's cry. The intake of Patch's breath. Shadow moved. A blur of muscle and fur, teeth flashing. He launched at Miller's arm with the full force of 100 pounds of fury. The gun fired a deafening crack that split the room, but Shadow's jaws clamped down, dragging the weapon sideways. The bullet buried itself in the wall inches from Ethan's head. Miller roared, thrashing, but Shadow held on, his teeth grinding bone, blood filling his mouth. Snake dove, slamming Miller to the floor, wrenching the gun free. The room erupted. Patch pulled Ethan back. Hawk shielded the baby. The wolves surged forward, a storm of leather and rage. But Snake's voice cut through the chaos. Stand down. Nobody touches him. Not yet. He pressed the gun to Miller's temple. The cop's face was twisted in fury, blood dripping from his shredded arm, but his eyes still burned with arrogance. You think you can win, Snake? Miller spat. I am the law. You are just trash on two wheels. Snake's grip tightened. For a second, it looked like he might pull the trigger. Then he lowered the gun. He said coldly, You do not get to go out easy. The whisper. Maya stirred on the couch. Her eyes fluttered open, bruised and bloodshot. She saw Miller pinned beneath Snake. Her lips moved, a broken whisper. Don T. Let him hurt them. Ethan broke free from Patch's hold and rushed to her side, tears streaming down his face. We found you. Shadow found you. The dog limped over, blood on his muzzle, and pressed his head into Ethan's chest. For a heartbeat, hope flickered in that smoke-filled room. But then Snake's comm crackled. Hawk's voice. Tight. Urgent. Snake. We have got incoming. Half the department is rolling this way. Miller must be called back up before he came in. Every biker went still. Sirens wailed in the distance. Growing louder, blue and red washed across the windows again. Multiplying. Snake's eyes hardened. He looked at Miller, bleeding but smiling now. The bastard knew exactly what he would done. The wolves are trapped in their own clubhouse with a wounded mother. 2 children, a bleeding cop, and half the police force closing in. Shadow growls, placing himself in front of Ethan once more. Snake whispers the words that could decide everything. Brothers, we hold the line. Part 4, the escape. The clubhouse walls pulsed blue and red as squad cars boxed them in. The iron wolves were used to heat. But never like this, never with children. Never with a mother still half-conscious on their couch. Snake paced like a caged lion, jaw clenched, eyes flicking from the door to Hawk's laptop, where the comm feed lit up with chatter. Miller slumped against the wall, blood seeping from his arm where Shadow's jaws had torn through flesh. But even bleeding, even bound with duct tape, his grin was smug. You are done. Miller croaked. Whole force is outside. You lay one more hand on me. You will never see daylight again. Shadow growled low from his post in front of Ethan. His muzzle was streaked red. Fur bristled. Eyes locked on Miller like he would never let him get close again. Ethan clung to the dog's collar, his small chest rising and falling in quick bursts. Patch muttered from the window, They have got the place surrounded. 5 cruisers. Maybe more. Snake snapped his fingers. Report. Hawk swiveled his laptop around. I have got his call. Before he rolled up here, Miller tried to cover his ass, told dispatch. He was responding to a kidnapping in progress at the Wolves Clubhouse. He is setting us up as the monsters. Hawk's fingers flew across the keys, but he hit play. The recording filled the room. Miller's voice, raw with anger. That little brat, she was warned. When I am done with this traffic stop, I am going back to finish what I started. Her and her mother both. The wolves froze. Every face hardened. There it was, proof. Snake's hands curled into fists. Send it, he ordered. Hawk's lips twisted into a grin. Not to local dispatch, to state troopers, and Channel 8 News in the next county. He hit enter. Let us see how your badge shines now. Frank. Miller's smile faltered. Just for a flicker. Shadow. Pov. The air throbbed with danger. Sirens screamed outside. Men bristled inside. But Shadow's world narrowed to the boy pressed against his side. Ethan's small hands trembled, smelling of salt tears and fear. Shadow could hear Ethan's heartbeat fast. Panic it. His boy needed calm. Protection. So the shepherd shifted his weight, pressing his body against the child, steady and solid, grounding him in a storm of chaos. His ears flicked, outside boots on gravel. Voices. Commands barked into radios. Shadow's nostrils flared. He could smell them even through the walls. Sweat. Leather belts. Gun oil. Too many. Shadow growled, lips peeling back. If they broke in, they would meet his teeth first. Planning the out, Snake slammed his fist on the table. We're not waiting for them to storm us. Mayor Wanty survive a standoff, and those kids sure as hell wanty. Patch nodded grimly. Back exits blocked. Snake turned to Hawk. Options. Hawk's fingers danced. Storm drains. They run under this block, connect out by the old rail yard. Narrow, but passable. Snake's eyes flicked to Ethan, then to Shadow. He will fit. Hawk smirked. The kid, yes. The dog, he is a tank. But if anyone can crawl it, that much can. Snake crouched in front of Ethan. Listen, kid. You and Shadow are going underground. Hawk will guide you. He is the brains. Patch will carry your brother. Your mom. Snake glanced back at Maya, pale and weak on the couch. Then back to Ethan. I will get her out. I swear it. Ethan's lip trembled. But what if they catch you? Snake's scared face softened. Then Shadow keeps you running, and you do not stop till you are safe. Understand? Ethan nodded, though his eyes shone wet. Shadow pressed his head into the boy's hand. He understood. Protect the pup, at all cost. The break. The wolves moved fast. Hawk pried open the storm drain hatch at the back of the clubhouse. The stink of rust and stagnant water rolled out. Ethan gagged, but Shadow nosed him forward. Tail stiff. Eyes sharp. Patch lowered the baby down first. swaddled tight in a blanket. Ethan followed, sliding into the dark with a choked sob. Shadow lipped last, claws scraping metal, landing with a splash beside his boy. Above ground, Snake and the others rearranged furniture, stacking tables and crates near the doors and windows. Noise. Clutter, bait for the eyes. If the cops came busting in, they would think the wolves were inside holding ground. Snake tightened his cut, slipped his arm under Maya, and lifted her once again. She stirred faintly, her voice a rasp. "Ethan, he is safe." Snake said, "He is with Shadow." Her bruised lips curved into the ghost of a smile. She let her head fall against his chest. Underground, the storm drain was narrow, damp, echoing. Every step sloshed foul water. Ethan clutched Shadow's scruff, one hand gripping the wall, trying not to slip. Behind him, Hawk crouched low, flashlight beam bobbing. Patch carried the baby carefully, every drip of water making him tense. Shadow moved point, nose low, ears pricked. The air was thick with mold and rot, but beneath it all he caught something else, fresh air. Faint but real, a way out. They pushed, the sirens muffled above, shouts echoing through the great covers. Ethan stumbled, splashing hard. Shadow wheeled, pressed his body against the boy, steadying him until he regained footing. Ethan buried his face against the dog's wet fur, whispering, "Dante, leave me." "Shadow, please do not." The shepherd licked the boy's cheek once, then moved forward again. Above ground, Miller sat slumped against the wall, blood seeping through his bandage, his grin gone now. Snake loomed over him, May in his arms. "You lose tonight." Snake growled. Miller sneered. "Even weak. You think the world believes your little tape. I will bury you in court. Bikers versus police. You will never win." Snake leaned close, voice a whisper of steel. "We do not need to win. We just need the truth loud enough no one can ignore it." Outside, Bullhorn boomed. "This is the police. Release Officer Miller immediately and surrender." Snake smirked. If only they knew. He glanced toward the storm drain hatch. Closed. Sealed. His people were on the move. Now his job was to buy them time. Shadow, S-Pov. The tunnel narrowed. Ethan stumbled again, crying quietly, but Shadow kept pushing, his body scraping the walls. His paws ached from the wet concrete. His lungs burned with mold. But he pressed forward. Ahead, a faint breeze stirred his whiskers. Open air. Safety. He barked once, sharp and low, urging Ethan on. The boy lifted his head, eyes wide. "We are close, are not we?" Shadow's tail thumped once. Yes, close. But then his ears twitched. Behind them, echoing through the tunnel, boots. Heavy, fast. Pursuing. Miller's men. Shadow snarled, teeth flashing in the dim. He spun, placing himself between Ethan and the approaching echoes. The boy's scent was sharp with fear, but Shadow's mind was clear. If they come, they go through me, The clash. At the clubhouse. The first flashbang shattered through a window. White light. Deafening bang. The wolves ducked. But Snake did not flinch. He hoisted Maya tighter, moved toward the back door. Bullets would follow. Sirens howled closer. He whispered into his comm. "Hawk, get them out, no matter what." Then he looked at Miller, who was laughing now. A wet, broken sound. "You can T-save them all." Snake. Snake's fist cracked across his face. Silencing him. Cliffhanger ending of Part 4. Underground. Shadow braced as figures dropped into the tunnel behind them. Flashlights slicing the dark. Then whimpered, clutching his fur. Above ground. Snake stepped into the open night with Maya in his arms, facing down a wall of rifles and blinding spotlights. 2 battlegrounds. 1 broken family. Time running out. Part 5 The Siege. The night split in 2. Above ground. The clubhouse glowed under the glare of police spotlights, a battered fortress of neon and smoke. Snake stood at its back exit, Maya cradled against his chest, her breath shallow, her bruises stark in the harsh white light. He faced down a wall of rifles, red dots crawling across his leather vest. Underground. The storm drain echoed with hurried footsteps, flashlight beams bouncing against damp walls. Ethan stumbled through the ankle-deep water, clutching Shadow as scruff. Behind them, Hawk urged him on. Ahead, Patch carried the baby, whispering prayers under his breath. The wolves were divided, surrounded, and time was a fuse burning fast. Above ground Snake's stand. A bullhorn barked again. "This is your last warning. Release Officer Miller and the woman you are holding hostage. Come out with your hands up." Snake barked a laugh, dark and sharp. "Hostage. She is half dead from your man's hands." He shifted Maya in his arms, her head lolling against his chest. His voice cut like steel. "You got it backwards. We are the only thing keeping her alive." He felt the eyes of his brothers on him, the wolves lined inside with bats, chains, makeshift shields. But Snake knew they could not win a firefight. Not tonight. Not against badges. He raised his voice. "You want her? Come take her. But you will be putting bullets through the only thing left that is innocent in this town." The line of rifles wavered. Cops glanced at each other. Some hesitated, but one man stepped forward, cold-eyed, gun steady. Captain Rawlins, Miller's closest ally. His voice was ice. "You have already lost." Snake. Underground shadows pov. The tunnel reeked of mold, rust, and fear. Ethan's breath came in sobs, the boy's feet slipping on slimy concrete. Shadow slowed his pace just enough for the boy to keep hold, but his ears twisted backward. The footsteps were closer now. Men shouting. Boots splashing. Predators in pursuit. Shadow's hackles rose. He wheeled, planting himself between Ethan and the glow of approaching flashlights. His growl rolled low and steady, echoing in the confined space. "Shadow," Ethan whispered desperately. "Don't leave me." The shepherd's amber eyes flicked to the boy. A promise. I will never leave you. Then he turned back toward the threat. Body low, ready to strike. The clash in the tunnel. Stop. Hawk hissed, pulling Ethan forward. Keep moving, kid. Patch. Push on, get that baby out. But Ethan dug his heels in. Shadow 1T, he 1T leave. A flashlight beam swung wide. A shout rang out. There. They are in the drain. 2 officers dropped in. Weapons raised. Shadow launched. The first man went down with a scream, teeth sinking deep into his forearm, gun clattering into the water. Shadow thrashed, dragging the man off balance, fury in every muscle. The second officer swung his maglite like a club, smashing it across Shadow's ribs. The dog yelped but did not release. Ethan screamed. Hawk shoved the boy behind him, drawing his knife in a flash. Steel caught the second officer across the wrist, sending his gun skittering. He cursed, clutching blood. Patch roared from ahead. Move. Hawk kicked the first officer free and grabbed Ethan by the arm. He will follow. Kid. Trust him. But Ethan's sobs tore the air. Shadow. Please. The shepherd, bleeding, limped forward, teeth bared, forcing the officers back. His eyes never left Ethan. Only when the boy turned and stumbled forward did Shadow finally pull free. Splashing through the muck after him. Above ground the trap tightens. Snake's comm crackled. Hawk's voice came ragged through static. Contact in the drain. Shadow held them off. We are moving. But they are on us. Snake's got twisted. He looked down at Maya, pale and fading in his arms. Looked at the baby, barely breathing in Patch's grip down below. Looked at Ethan, trusting them all with everything he had, and he knew, if one thing goes wrong, the whole family's gone. Buy them time. Snake muttered. He raised his voice to the cops. You really think you are serving justice tonight? You are protecting a monster in uniform. And we have got the proof. The whole damn world's about to hear Miller's voice. Captain Rawlins sneered. We control the story. No one believes animals like you. Snake's laugh was cold. Then why are your men shaking? And some of them were. Guns lowering. Doubt flickering. Rawlins saw it too. His jaw clenched. Open fire. He hissed. Underground flight to the rail yard. The storm drain widened, splitting in 2 directions. Hawk saw under his breath. Left or right? Ethan's small voice piped up, desperate but sure. Right? I smelled trains that way when I ran before. Hawk blinked. Smelled trains. Shadow barked once, sharply, and bolted right. Ethan stumbled after him without hesitation. Patch groaned but followed, clutching the baby tight. Hawk brought up the rear, knife ready, eyes flicking back to catch the glimmer of flashlight still chasing. The drain sloped upward. The scent of rusted iron filled the air. Faint moonlight leaked through a grate ahead. Freedom. Above ground betrayal revealed. Gunfire ripped the night. Bullets chewed into the clubhouse facade, glass exploding outward. Wolves dove for cover, returning fire with old shotguns and pistols. It was chaos, lead against lead, fury against authority. Snake crouched low, Maya shielded beneath him. Miller laughed through his blood, shouting over the din. "They will kill you all for me. Snake, they will kill her too. And the kid gone. Buried." Snake's blood boiled. He slammed a fist into Miller's jaw, silencing him. Then a voice cut through the comms patch. Breathless. "Snake, you need to hear this. It is not just Miller." Static. "What?" Snake barked. Patch's voice was tight, urgent. "One of the cops chasing us in the tunnel. He told the other to let Miller clean house. Said Rawlins ordered it. They all knew. They have been covering for him for years." Snake's stomach dropped. Not one monster, a whole nest. He met Hawk's eyes across the feed. "Record it. Send it." Underground, the last stand of the dog. The grate loomed ahead, rusted and bared. Patch shoved the baby up, Hawk straining to pry it loose. Ethan pressed against Shadow, whispering prayers. Behind them, flashlights closed in. Voices shouted. Boots splashed. Shadow spun, planting himself in the center of the tunnel. His ribs ached where the club had struck. Blood dripped from his muzzle. But none of it mattered. The boy was behind him. The shepherd growled. A deep, primal sound that echoed through the drain like thunder. Ethan sobbed. "Shadow, come with me, please." But Shadow did not move. His body was a wall. His vow was clear. Not one step closer to the boy. Above ground, Snake's vow. The firefight paused as Hawk's recording hit the open airwaves. State troopers in the next county. Newsrooms. Reporters. Phones buzzing in squad cars. Some officers lowered their weapons. Listening. Horrified, as Miller's threats and Rawlins' complicity echoed in their earpieces. Snake stepped forward into the spotlight, raising his voice so the night carried it. "Your badge means nothing if you protect monsters. You hear me?" "Nothing?" He held Maya high, her bruises plain for all to see. "This is what your silence protects. This is what we ride against." The line of rifles wavered. Confusion spread, and in that hesitation Snake knew they might just have a chance. Underground. Shadow lunges at the first officer bursting into the tunnel, teeth sinking deep. Above ground. Snake hears the first trooper sirens cutting through the night, not local, but state police. Reinforcements that do not answer to Miller. Two battles converging. One truth finally cracking open. Part 6 secrets in the ashes. The storm drain was a coffin of echoes splashing boots. Shouts. The scrape of metal on concrete. Ethan's small hands shook as he clung to Shadow's fur. The shepherd stood rooted. Body tense. Grohl vibrating through the tunnel walls. His amber eyes burned like warning flares. Then the first cop lunged through the water. Shadow met him in mid-charge. Teeth sank into fabric. Then flesh. And the officer went down with a howl, his flashlight spiraling into the darkness. The second officer stumbled back, raising his sidearm. Shadow! Ethan screamed. The crack of a gunshot tore the air. The bullet ricocheted, spraying sparks off the concrete wall inches from Hawk's head. Hawk threw himself forward, knife flashing, slamming the gun from the officer's hand. Move! Hawk roared. Patch strained at the grate. Muscles corded, baby cradled against his chest. With a guttural curse, he heved once more. Rust screeched. The bars gave. Fresh night air poured in. Out! Ethan shoved at Shadow. Tears spilling. Come on. Please. Shadow limped, blood dripping from his side where the bullet had grazed him. But his eyes never left the boy. He pressed against Ethan's leg, nudging him toward the open grate. The doggish body seemed to say, I will hold them. But Ethan refused. He wrapped his arms around Shadow's neck. Sobbing, I am not leaving without you. Behind them. Officers regrouped, shouts growing closer. Hawk grabbed Ethan by the collar, dragging him upward through the grate. The dog's coming. Kid, he is coming. Shadow snarled once more, then leaped. Claws scrabbling, hauling himself through the opening with a last surge of strength. He tumbled into the rail yard, bleeding but alive, then threw himself across the dog, sobbing into his fur. Shadow licked the boy's cheek once, then lowered his head. Panting hard, his job was not finished. Not until the boy was safe. Above ground the wolves hold the line. At the clubhouse, the air was thick with smoke and cordite. The wolves fired in controlled bursts. Buying minutes. Not victory. Snake crouched low with Maya still in his arms, her weight growing heavier by the second. Snake. Razor shouted over the din. We can hold much longer. Then Hawk's voice broke through comms. Ragged but triumphant. We are out. Railyard east exit. Shadows with us. Relief surged through Snake's chest. He looked at Maya. You hear that? Your boy's out. Your dog too. They made it. Her swollen eyes fluttered open. For the first time, real tears welled. Ethan, he is safe. Snake nodded. Safe. Because he never gave up on you. Her lips trembled. Then neither will I, the traitor revealed. But the wolves were not safe. Not all of them. When Snake turned, he caught sight of Big Ron, his own brother, in leather slipping through the smoke toward the back door. Phone pressed to his ear. Snake's gut sank. Not again. He stormed across the room, fury burning hot. With one swipe, he ripped the phone from Ron's hand. On the screen, an open line to Rawlins. Snake's fist connected with Ron's jaw, sending him sprawling into a stack of crates. The whole room froze. You have been feeding him our moves. Snake snarled, voice low and deadly. How much did he buy you for? A clean record, a handful of cash. Ron's lip bled as he stammered. I did not, he promised, he said, no one would get hurt. Patch spat on the floor. Tell that to Maya. To the kids. The wolves surged. Fists tightening, but Snake raised a hand. His voice was iron. He does not get an easy out. He lives with what he chose. Ron's eyes darted, shame etched deep, but Snake had no more time for him. Outside, sirens wailed louder. State troopers were coming, but so were more of Rawlins' men. Snake hefted Maya again. We ride. Underground exit shadow falters. The rail yard stretched empty and silent, moonlight spilling over rusted tracks and weeds. Hawk hauled Ethan out of the grate, Patch following with the baby. Shadow dragged himself through last. Ribs heaving, fur matted with blood. Ethan dropped to his knees beside him. Shadow, don't you die. Please do not. The shepherd's ears flicked weakly. His tongue brushed the boy's cheek. He pressed his head into Ethan's chest, eyes closing just for a heartbeat. Hawk knelt, quick hands probing the wound. Through the skin, didn't hit bone. He will hurt like hell, but he is not done yet. He tore a strip of cloth, binding Shadow's side. The dog whimpered but did not move. Ethan's tears streaked his cheeks, but hope flickered in his eyes. He will be okay. Hawk gave a grim nod. If we keep him moving. The dog lifted his head then, ears pricking. His body stiffened. Danger still lingered. The hunt was not over. Maya finds her voice. The wolves regrouped at the rail yard minutes later. Snake lowered Maya onto a crate, Ethan racing to her side, Shadow collapsing at their feet. Ethan sobbed. He threw his arms around her, careful of her bruises. We found you. We did it. Maya's hands trembled as she held him. Tears streaked her swollen face. For a moment, the world shrank to mother and son, clinging in the dark, breathing the same air again. But then Maya lifted her gaze, her voice hoarse but steady. They will say I am lying. They will say I am just some trash single mom looking for a payday. Snake crouched in front of her. Then you speak anyway, because you have got something stronger than their lies. What? She whispered. Snake pointed to Ethan, to Shadow, to the baby in Patch's arms. You have got them, and they are proof enough. Her bruised lips pressed into a thin line. All these years, no one believed me, not the courts, not the neighbors, not the church, because I was a single mom, because I was not respectable enough. But Ethan, she brushed her son's hair back, he found you. He found truth where no one else looked. Snake's scared face softened. Then let us make them listen. Shadow's vow. Shadow lifted his head, pressing it into Ethan's lap. The boy's assent was thick with salt tears, but also relief. The shepherd's ribs ached, his side burned, but his heart was steady. He knew his job was not finished. There were still hunters in the night, still dangers waiting, but the boy was safe for now. Pressed against his mother, whispering love. And that was enough to rise again when called. The storm is not over. Hawk's laptop pinged. He cursed. Rawlins is spinning the story already. Local radio says the wolves abducted a cop and staged it. Miller's being painted as the hero. Snake's jaw hardened. Then we burn it all down. Every recording, every file. We leak everything we have got. Patch growled. And if that is not enough? Snake looked out across the rail yard, the moon glinting off the rails like silver blades. His voice was low. Dangerous. Then we ride until the truth is louder than their lies. In the distance, more sirens wailed, not the hollow ones of local cops, but the sharp, rising wail of state troopers closing in. The wolves looked at each other, battered but unbroken. And Maya, bruised and bleeding, lifted her chin. For the first time in years, her voice did not tremble. They wanted me silent, she said. But tomorrow, the whole damn town will hear me. Part 7: The Betrayal. By dawn, the town was buzzing like a kicked hornet's nest. Local radio played the same script on repeat. Officer Frank Miller, decorated veteran of the police force, has been abducted by members of the Iron Wolves motorcycle club. The gang is suspected of holding him hostage in retaliation for his investigations into organized crime. Snake listened from the rail yard, fists tight at his sides. The wolves sat in a half-circle around Hawk's laptop, smoke curling from cigarettes, exhaustion hanging heavy. They would fought through hell to drag Maya and her children to safety, and yet in the court of public opinion, they were already painted as villains. Rawlins owns the airwaves. Hawk muttered. He is flooding the feeds, silencing anything that does not fit the story. Snake spat into the dirt. Then we take the story away from him. Patch snorted. And how do you plan to do that? Boss, they see us as thugs in leather. Nobody wants our side. Snake's gaze shifted to Ethan, asleep on Shadow's flank. The dog curled tight around him. Maya sat nearby, cradling the baby, her bruises visible even in the morning light. When she caught Snake's eye, her lips pressed thin. They do not want my side either, she said softly. I am a single mom with a past. I worked 2 jobs. Left my kids with neighbors. Took food stamps when I had to. Women like me do not get sympathy. Not in this town. Her voice cracked but did not break. But I will speak anyway. I will say what he did, and I will keep saying it until someone listens. Snake gave a slow nod. Then we ride with you. Shadow, Espov. The morning smelled of oil, damp earth, and fear. Ethan's scent was softer now, heavy with sleep, but underneath was sorrow. Shadow licked the boy's hand once, reassuring him even in dreams. But the air carried other scents too, smoke on the wind, leather that was not theirs, the faint ozone of radio equipment. Enemies close. Shadow's ears twitched. His body stiffened. He growled low, waking Ethan. Shadow, the boy whispered, rubbing his eyes. What is it? The dog did not answer, only turned his nose toward the horizon, where danger always came from. The smear campaign. By noon, the wolves had moved Maya and the children to an abandoned barn on the outskirts of town. They needed cover, but also reception. Hawk set up his rig, wires and antenna snaking across hay bales. Got something? Hawk said suddenly. Rawlins is on Live TV. The screen lit with the captain's smug face. His voice was calm. Righteous. We are dealing with a violent gang known for intimidation and extortion. They have kidnapped Officer Miller, who risked his life to protect this community. We urge all citizens to remain calm and report any suspicious activity. These bikers are dangerous and must be stopped. Snake's teeth ground, but Hawk leaned forward, grinning. Keep talking. You bastard. Every word digs your grave deeper. Then Rawlins said the line that made Maya's whole body shake. We have reason to believe the woman they claim to be protecting is complicit. A troubled single mother with a history of drug use and unstable behavior. She cannot be trusted. Ethan's head jerked up. That is a lie. He cried. Maya's face went pale, tears brimming, but she did not look away from the screen. Of course he would say that is what men like him always do. Snake crouched beside her, then prove him wrong. We put your face out there. The bruises. The kids. The truth. Not from us, from you. Her hands trembled, but she nodded. I'm ready. The ambush. Hawk's rig crackled suddenly. Movement. East Ridge. Multiple signals. The wolves snapped into action. Engines roared alive. Snake barked orders. Patch. Get Maya and the kids inside. Hawk. Cut the feed and grab your gear. Razor. Diesel, you are with me. Ethan clung to Shadow as the barn doors rattled from the blast of a flashbang. Smoke filled the air. Officers poured in helmets. Shields. Rifles. Ethan. Maya screamed. Shadow surged forward, slamming into the first shield, teeth snapping at the visor. The officers stumbled back. Gun clattering. Ethan ducked under hay bales. Shadow following. Snarling. Snake's shotgun thundered once, scattering the line. Wolves brawled with feral rage, chains and fists against batons. But through the chaos, one officer broke off, eyes fixed on Ethan. He lunged, grabbing the boy by the arm. Ethan screamed. Shadow launched. The shepherd's jaws clamped down on the man's wrist, twisting, pulling him off balance. The officer swung his baton, cracking across Shadow's back. Pain flared white hot, but the dog held on, dragging the man to his knees. Snake roared, tackling the officer, ripping Ethan free. Shadow collapsed against the hay, panting hard, blood seeping through his bandage. Ethan dropped beside him, sobbing. Shadow. Please, no. The dog lifted his head weakly, eyes finding the boy. He thumped his tail once, a vow unbroken. Aftermath of the ambush. The wolves fought like cornered beasts, but the cops withdrew suddenly, retreating into the smoke. Snake frowned. Too easy. Hawk cursed, scanning his rig. They got what they wanted. Footage. Cops bleeding. Guns firing. Biker swinging chains. Rawlins will spin this as proof we are terrorists. Patch slammed a fist into the wall. They do not care about truth. They care about headlines. But Maya stepped forward, her face streaked dirt and tears, her voice shaking but loud. Then we give them a headline they can ignore. Show them me. Show them what he did. Snake met her eyes. This was not the broken woman they would pulled from a basement. This was someone finding her voice in the ashes. He nodded. Tomorrow. Then, we ride to the courthouse. You speak. We make them hear you. Shadow's vow renewed. That night, Ethan curled against Shadow in the hay, whispering into his fur, "Don't ever leave me, okay? I do not care what happens. You can leave." Shadow closed his eyes, pressing his head into the boy's chest. Pain throbbed in his side, his back, but his heart was steady. He would bleed, bite, and break himself before letting harm touch the child. The boy's ascent carried hope now, faint but real, and that was enough. The fire spreads. By morning, the wolves' plan was set. Hawk had rigged a live stream, ready to beam Maya's testimony unfiltered to anyone who would listen. Snake prepared the bikes. Engines growling, leather creaking as men strapped on cuts. But as they rolled toward town, smoke rose in the distance. The courthouse was already burning. Hawk's jaw dropped. Rawlins is erasing the stage. He knew we would bring her there. Snake's scared lips twisted into a snarl. Then we find another stage. Bigger, louder. His eyes flicked to Maya, to Ethan, to Shadow. They wanted to bury your voice. We're going to make sure the whole damn world hears it instead. The wolves ride toward town, but the courthouse, a symbol of justice, is in flames. Shadow, battered but unbowed, rides in the sidecar with Ethan clutching him tight. And Maya, bruised but unbroken, whispers to herself like a prayer, "They tried to silence me. Now I will make sure they can tea." Part 8. The final chase. The courthouse was still burning when the wolves roared into town. Smoke curled black against the morning sky. Windows shattered, flames eating the wood beams like a beast let loose. Snake killed his engine, boots hitting the pavement. He stared at the destruction, his scarred face unreadable. Rawlins torched the law itself. He muttered, "Now he will say we did it." Hawk saw under his breath. Every channel's already running that story. We are the villains of the week. But Snake's eyes were not on the cameras or the fire. His gaze locked on Maya, swaying weakly but standing. Ethan clutching her hand. Shadow pressed tight against the boy's leg. "They want us ghosts." Snake said, "So let us haunt him." The trap. They did not get far. As the wolves turned down Main Street, squad cars cut them off at both ends. Lights flashing. Sirens wailing. A megaphone barked, "Drop your weapons. Step away from the civilians." Snake raised a hand, motioning the wolves into a defensive ring. "Hold." But then Ethan screamed. A black SUV screeched onto the sidewalk, door flying open. Two men in plainclothes lunged out, grabbing the boy by the arms. "Ethan?" Maya shrieked. Stumbling forward. Shadow exploded. He hit the first man like a missile, jaws crushing into his shoulder. The second swung a pistol down, but Ethan kicked. Thrashing. Screaming. The gun went off too close. Too loud. The world slowed. Shadow released the first man and launched for the second, teeth sinking into his wrist, dragging the weapon down. The gun clattered across the asphalt. Snake bellowed. Charging forward, fist cracking into bone. Razor and Diesel piled in, boots and chains flying. The wolves fought with fury, tearing Ethan free. The boy collapsed into Shadow's fur, sobbing, burying his face against the dog's bleeding side. But the sirens grew louder. Squad cars swarmed. "They will bury us here." Patch shouted. Snake's eyes blazed. "Not if we burn brighter." Shadow's pov. The boy's scent was sharp with terror, salty with tears. Shadow pressed against him, licking his cheek, nudging him back. "Stay close. Stay safe." But the air reeked of smoke, fear, and gunpowder. Too many enemies, too much danger. Shadow's ribs screamed with every breath, but his body was fire. His purpose was iron. He was not bred to quit. He barked once, sharp and fierce. The boy clung tighter. The pack would hold. The pack had to hold. Snake as gamble. State trooper sirens wailed in the distance closer now. Rawlins' men needed this done before backup arrived. Snake saw the calculation in their eyes, the tightening of triggers. He ripped his cut from his shoulders, lifting it high. "You want villains." He roared. "Here we are." He tossed the leather to the pavement. The wolves followed, 30 patches hitting the ground like war banners. "Stand behind her." Snake barked, shoving Maya into the center, Ethan and Shadow at her side. The wolves formed a wall of flesh and fury. Circling them, bats, chains, fists, nothing fancy, just raw defiance. Maya's eyes widened. "What are you?" Snake's voice was a growl, making sure they see who bleeds first. The cops advanced, and then the state trooper sirens screamed right into the street. The split. For a heartbeat, the line of rifles hesitated. Local cops glared at state troopers spilling out of cruisers, orders clashing in the smoke-filled air. Rawlins himself appeared, face red, veins bulging. He pointed at Snake. "They are kidnappers." They torched the courthouse. Snake spread his arms wide, voice booming. "Ask the woman. Ask the kid. Ask the dog." All eyes turned. Maya stepped forward, trembling but upright. "He is lying." Her voice cracked, but she forced it louder. "Frank Miller put me in a basement. He threatened my kids, and Captain Rawlins covered it up." Gasps rippled. Rawlins snarled, lunging for her, but Shadow moved like lightning. He launched, slamming into Rawlins' chest, teeth snapping inches from his throat. Rawlins stumbled back, face pale, and Hawk hit send across a dozen live streams. Rawlins' rage-filled face froze in place, side by side with Miller's recorded threats. Thousands were watching. Thousands were listening. The truth was out. The break. But Rawlins was not finished. Desperation gleamed in his eyes. He ripped a gun from his holster, leveling it straight at Ethan. Time froze. Ethan's eyes went wide, tears streaking his face. Maya screamed. Snake lunged, but Shadow was faster. The shepherd hurled himself between boy and bullet. The shot cracked, echoing off the buildings. Shadow's body jerked mid-air, then crashed to the asphalt with a yelp that split Ethan's soul in half. Shadow. Ethan cried, throwing himself to the ground, cradling the dog's head. Blood seeped into the boy's pajamas. Shadow's breath came ragged, eyes glassy but locked on the child. His tail thumped once, weak but certain. The wolves' fury, snakish roar split the street. The wolves surged, overwhelming Rawlins in a storm of fists and chains. Guns clattered to the pavement. Local cops faltered, torn between orders and the truth unraveling in front of them. State troopers swarmed, yanking Rawlins to the ground, slapping cuffs on his wrists. His screams rang hollow. Miller was dragged out next, his bloodied arm bound tight, his face pale. He spat curses, but no one listened. Not anymore. The wolves stood panting in the street, battered and bloody, but alive. Ethan clung to Shadow, sobbing, rocking the dog's limp body. Maya dropped beside them, pulling her son close, stroking Shadow's fur with trembling hands. "Don't you dare leave him," she whispered. "Not after everything." Shadow's pov. Pain burned through every nerve. The world dimmed, narrowed to the boy sent tears, salt, fear, love. Ethan's voice trembled in his ears. Shadow forced his head up, pressing it into the boy's chest one last time. His tongue brushed Ethan's cheek. A vow sealed. I will always be here." Then the dark pulled harder. Snake's promise. Paramedics rushed in. Shouldering past, they reached for Maya, for the baby, for Shadow. Snake towered over them, his voice rough. "You save that dog first." The medics hesitated. Snake's eyes burned like fire. "He took the bullet. He is one of us. You save him first." They obeyed. A Shadow was lifted onto a stretcher. Ethan clung to his paw. Sobbing, Snake crouched beside him, scarred face softening. "Listen, kid. He is a fighter, stronger than any of us. You hold on to that." Ethan wiped his face with a bloodied sleeve. "He can TD. He just can T." Snake's jaw tightened. "Not while you need him." Shadow's stretcher disappears into the ambulance. Ethan refusing to let go of his paw until the doors close. The wolves stand in the smoking street, Rawlins in cuffs. Miller broken. The courthouse burning behind them. But the question hangs heavy in the air. Will Shadow survive the night? Part 9. The Ocean. The ambulance tore through the night. Sirens wailing. Lights flashing across shuttered storefronts and empty highways. Inside, Ethan sat pressed against Shadow's stretcher, both hands locked around the shepherd's paw. His tears streaked the dog's blood-matted fur. "Please do not go. Shadow. Please." His voice was hoarse, almost gone from screaming. The paramedic tried to move him back. "Kid, you gotta let us work." But Ethan would not budge. "He won't fight if I am not here. He has to know I am here." Snake leaned against the opposite wall of the ambulance, arms crossed over his scarred chest, eyes never leaving the boy and the dog. His voice was gravel low. "Let the kid stay. That mutt's breathing because of him. Don't you change that now." The paramedic hesitated, then went back to work, hands flying over bandages and IV lines. Shadow's chest rose and fell, shallow but steady. A machine beat a rhythm like a fragile heartbeat. Maya sat hunched in the corner, Baby Leo swaddled against her chest. Her face was pale but set with determination. "He saved my son," she whispered. "He saved all of us." Snake nodded once. "Heroes come in all shapes." His eyes softened on the dog. Sometimes they got paws. At the hospital, the wolves rode escort, their bikes forming a thunderous wall around the ambulance all the way to St. Mary's by the ocean. Reporters already swarmed outside, cameras flashing, microphones stabbing forward like spears. Snake, did the wolves abduct Officer Miller? Mayor, were you really complicit? Is the dog alive? The questions came like bullets. Snake shoved through them, his massive frame clearing a path. No comment. He growled, voice cutting like steel, but Hawk grinned wickedly as he slipped USB drives into the pockets of 2 reporters, each one loaded with recordings. "Let us see whose story runs louder." Hawk muttered. Inside the air, chaos reigned. Nurses rushed Shadow down the hall. Ethan tried to follow but was stopped by an orderly. His fists flailed until Snake scooped him up, setting him on his shoulder like a sack of determination. "You will see him, kid." Snake rumbled. "But you got to let them work first." Ethan's small hands clutched Snake's cut, tears still streaming. "He can TD?" He promised. Snake's throat tightened. He had no words for that. Shadow, Espov. Darkness pressed heavy, but the boy's scent clung like light. Salt tears, fear, love. Shadow's body was pain, but his mind was clear. "The boy needs me. I can leave him yet." He drifted, but every time the dark pulled harder, he heard Ethan's voice. That kept him fighting, not for survival, for duty, for love. The reckoning by the ocean. Hours passed. Dawn painted the horizon silver blue. The wolves gathered outside the hospital. Leather-cut sleeves rolled, eyes ringed with exhaustion. The ocean crashed against the seawall beyond, a steady rhythm like the heart of the world. Hawk leaned against his laptop, streaming live feeds. "It is spreading. State troopers confirmed Miller's arrest. Rawlins is in federal custody. News outlets are playing the tapes on loop. People are starting to believe." Patch exhaled, smoke curling from his cigarette. "Starting ain't enough. They will keep spinning lies." Snake's gaze stayed on the horizon. "Then we do not let him. We make the truth bigger than their lies." Maya stepped forward, baby in her arms, bruises stark in the morning light. "Then let me speak. Let me tell them everything." Snake turned to her, scarred face unreadable. "Once you do, there is no going back. They will put your name in every paper. They will dig up your past. You ready for that?" Maya lifted her chin. Her voice was raw but steady. "I have lived in shadows long enough. My kids deserve better. Shadow deserves better." Snake nodded slowly. "Then we give you the stage." There's vigil. In the hospital room, Ethan sat on the edge of Shadow's bed. Machines beeped softly, tubes and wires wending like snakes. He stroked the dog's ear gently, whispering stories about the night he would escaped, about how his mom used to tell him bikers protect people, about how he knew Shadow was different from the moment he found him. "Please do not leave me." He whispered, "You are my best friend. My brother. My everything." Shadow's eyes flickered open, just a sliver of amber. His tail gave the faintest thump against the sheet. Ethan gasped. He is awake. He is still fighting. Maya rushed, tears spilling, clutching the baby. Oh God. Shadow. Snake stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his voice low. "Toughest damn mutt I ever saw. The wolf's choice." That afternoon, the wolves assembled on the pier overlooking the ocean. The salt air stung their lungs, gulls crying overhead. Hawk had cameras set up, the live stream already ticking viewers into the thousands. Maya stood at the center, bruised but unbowed, Ethan at her side, Shadow resting weakly at their feet. The wolves formed a ring around them, leather-clad sentinels, the scars and tattoos on full display. "Ready?" Hawk asked. Maya's voice shook. "But I am doing it anyway." Snake gave her a rare, soft smile. "That is all that matters." The live stream went live. Maya speaks. "My name is Maya Thompson." She began, voice trembling but rising. "I am a single mother. For years I lived in fear of a man who wore a badge. He beat me. He threatened my children. He told me no one would ever believe me." She paused, Ethan squeezing her hand. Shadow stirred at her feet, pressing his head against her leg. "But my son believed." He ran into the night with nothing but courage, and a dog that everyone else thought was too broken to matter. And he found help where no one told him to look. He found it in the wolves. The comments scrolled by faster than Hawk could track. "We believe you." "Protect her." "Shadow's a hero." "Down with corruption." Tears streaked Maya's face, but she did not stop. "I know what people say about women like me, about single moms, that we are weak, that we are trouble, that we are unfit. But I am standing here today alive because I was not weak. I was unheard, and I am done being silent." Her voice cracked, but her last words rang like thunder. "Justice does not wear a uniform. Sometimes it wears scars. Sometimes it wears leather. And sometimes it has paused." The pier erupted with the rumble of wolves, revving engines in unison, a defiant roar against the crashing ocean. Shadow, Espov. The salt wind stung his nose, but the boy's hand on his fur was warm. The voices of the crowd near. Digital meant nothing to him. Only the boy mattered. Only the scent of love and safety. His body still ached, but his heart was steady. His vow held. "As long as the boy needs me, I will rise." The calm before the last storm. That evening, the wolves returned to the hospital. State troopers had secured Miller and Rawlins. News vans clogged the streets. The tide was turning, but shadows still lingered. Snake stood on the rooftop overlooking the ocean, wind whipping his cut. Hawk joined him, eyes glued to his phone. Numbers are off the charts. Millions watched. It is viral. Snake did not smile. Truth ain't to victory yet, but it is a start. Below, Ethan curled beside Shadow in the hospital bed, whispering stories into the shepherd's sea air. The dog's tail thumped faintly in rhythm with the ocean beyond. And in that fragile peace, Hope bloomed like dawn. The wolves had turned the tide, but Snake's voice rumbled low as he looked out over the water. This ain't the end. There is always another storm, and when it comes she won't be alone. None of them will. Ethan's whisper echoed from below, soft but fierce as a prayer. You are my hero? Shadow. Forever? Part 10. The Last Ride. Shadow's breath rattled in the hospital room, the machines at his side keeping a rhythm that sounded too fragile, too thin. Ethan sat curled against him, small hands gripping the shepherd's paw like a lifeline. He had not left the bed in 2 days. Snake stood in the doorway, massive frame filling the space, arms crossed over his chest. The scarred biker who once terrified strangers now looked like a sentinel, silent and still. He had fought battles, buried brothers, faced down the law itself, but none of it twisted his gut like watching the boy beg a broken dog to stay alive. Don't leave me. Shadow. Ethan whispered. Not yet. Please. The shepherd stirred, amber eyes fluttering open. His tongue flicked weakly across the boy's hand. His tail thumped once against the sheet. It was enough. Ethan gasped, looking up at his mother. He is fighting. He promised. Maya's bruised face broke into tears. She reached out, brushing her son's hair back, her voice soft but fierce. Then we fight with him. The town shifts. By the 3rd day, the wolves' live stream had spread beyond the county. Beyond the state, millions had seen Maya's testimony. Her bruises, her raw truth. Rawlins and Miller sat in federal cells, stripped of badges, their names dripping with shame. But the town was not ready to call the wolves heroes. Not yet. Some still whispered outlaws, still crossed the street when patched leather passed by. Snake did not care. They had not ridden for glory. They would ridden for one boy, one mother, one dog who'd refused to let monsters win. And that was enough. Maya's healing. Maya walked through the grocery store with her baby strapped to her chest. Bruises faded but visible. For the first time in years, no one looked away. Some nodded. Some offered quiet words. At the checkout, the clerk whispered, "We saw you on TV. We believe you." Maya's lips trembled. She nodded, tears burning, and walked out with her head high. That night, she sat on the Wolves' clubhouse porch with Snake. The roar of bikes echoed in the distance, fireflies winking in the yard where Ethan chased them. Shadow lay nearby, ribs still wrapped, but tail swishing whenever the boy laughed. I thought being a single mom meant I was doomed to be invisible. Maya said softly, like my voice did not matter, like my kids did not deserve safety because of who their mother was. Snake leaned forward, Scar catching the porch light. World is full of people ready to call women like you weak. But you stood up when it counted. That makes you stronger than all of them combined. Her eyes filled again. I could not have done it without him. She nodded toward Shadow. He saved us. Snake's voice rumbled low. Sometimes the truest guardians ain't human. Shadow, Espov. The night smelled of cut grass, gasoline, and laughter. Ethan's scent carried joy now, not just fear. Shadow's body still hurt, But each breath came easier, each heartbeat stronger. He watched the boy chase fireflies, his little legs pumping, his laugh ringing through the air. Shadow rose stiffly, padding forward to join him. Ethan squealed with delight and wrapped his arms around the shepherd as neck. Shadow pressed his head into the boy's chest. His vow was sealed forever, the last threat, but storms never truly end. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at the clubhouse, no return address. Just Snake's name scrawled across the front. Inside was a single line. You think you cut the head, the body lives on. Snake crumpled it in his fist. There were more corrupt men, more shadows to fight. But this family, Ethan, Maya, Shadow would never stand alone again. He mounted his Harley, the wolves roaring to life behind him. Engines thundered like a war drum, shaking the earth. Ethan ran out to the porch, Shadow at his side, both of them watching wide-eyed as Snake raised a hand in salute. Where are you going? Ethan called. Snake's scared lips curved into a rare smile, to remind the world monsters do not get to win. The last ride. That evening, the wolves rode as one through town, engines echoing off brick and glass. People lined the sidewalks, some cheering, some just staring. Maya stood with Ethan on the curb, Shadow sitting proudly at their side, a bandage still wrapped around his ribs. Ethan raised his small hand, weaving. The wolves thundered past, but Snake slowed just enough to lock eyes with the boy. A scarred man and a scarred dog, bound by the same truth. Protect the innocent at all costs. Shadow barked once, deep and proud, as if sealing the pact. The wolves disappeared down the highway, exhaust smoke fading into the twilight. The message. Weeks later, Maya's words would be quoted in papers, replayed on screens, etched into memory. Justice does not always wear a badge. Sometimes it wears leather, and sometimes it has paws. The image that went viral was not Snake, or Maya, or even the courthouse burning. It was a photograph someone snapped that night outside. Marius, Ethan asleep with his arms around Shadow, the dog's muzzle stitched and scarred, but his eyes bright, watching the door. That picture became a symbol, not of bikers, or police, or politics, but of one simple truth. Every child deserves a protector. And sometimes the protector comes with scars and teeth. Epilogue. Years later, the ocean crashed against the shore, gulls wheeling overhead. Ethan, older now, stood on the same pier where his mother had once told the world her truth. Beside him, grey in the muzzle but still strong, Shadow sat with quiet dignity. Still with me, old boy. Ethan whispered. Shadow thumped his tail, pressing against his leg. Maya joined them, smiling softly. I told you, Ethan, different kinds of protectors. He nodded, looking out at the horizon, at the endless ocean. I know. He crouched, wrapping his arms around Shadow's neck, whispering the same words he had spoken as a child. You are my hero. Forever. The wind carried his vow across the waves, and the wolves, somewhere down the coast, rode on into the fading light, monsters to some, guardians to others, but always protectors. True protectors are not always the ones we expect. Sometimes they are scarred men on motorcycles. Sometimes they are single mothers with voices no one believed. And sometimes they are a dog who would give everything for the child he loves.